guys, this is Patti Starr, and I'm standing in the middle of town here in Somerset, Kentucky. Pretty excited about what we're going to see today. First of all, this building here is called the Carnegie Arts Center, and it has a basement. And down in the basement, we're going to be visiting Kyle Cabal, and he is connected to the International Paranormal Museum and Research. Hello everyone, we finally made it down into the basement of the Carnegie Arts Center. And with me standing here is Kyle Cabal. And he is going to be explaining a little bit of all of this that we're going to be seeing and witnessing. First of all, when did you decide to do a museum of all these really paranormal, unbelievable things that you have?
Yeah, well, you know, I've been ghost hunting and into the paranormal for, really all my life, but we started investigating probably about 16 years ago.
Okay.
And, you know, we had enough investigations under our belt that we eventually had some haunted items that people didn't want anymore that we already took care of. And we're also pretty big tourists, so we would go to some of the famous haunted places or famous Bigfoot places and just do investigations and get whatever we could, you know. And about 4 years ago, we just really wanted to make a display for Halloween, and we came into the Carnegie building and talked to Rhonda, who was the director at that point. And Rhonda and I quickly decided to do a full museum. So we opened on October 14th, 2017. Since then, we've had over 6,000 people from 30 different states and 7 different countries.
Oh my gosh, I know you're proud of that.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. Well, I myself, I know I don't have it with me, but I am going to make a donation as well.
Yes.
I want to bring in one of the big Frank blocks that we started with.
That, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I am bringing that in. I think that'd be a little bit fun, because I do understand that you have an exhibit of ghost hunting equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And it's actually our ghost hunting equipment that we've compiled over the years that we still use on our investigations.
All right, sounds good. Well, I think the best thing for us to do now is to get started. And as we go in, it looks a little dark over there, so
yeah, I can probably take care of it.
Okay, all right, let's see.
Hey Google, let's start the day. Oh, and welcome.
Oh, I love it. Oh, this is nice.
So welcome to the International Paranormal Museum.
Okay, and with the place that we just walked into, I noticed that this looks like a coffin.
Yeah, absolutely. Our first room here is dedicated more to death and oddities and magic.
Okay.
So this is actually one of our newer big pieces. We just completed a 6-month remodel where we changed the lights, we got new cases, we got a bunch of new stuff.
Okay.
And this is our favorite piece from our new stuff. This casket is actually a wicker casket that came from a Tennessee ghost cemetery or funeral home.
Funeral home. Okay, that's all right. I started too.
Yeah, it came from a funeral home in Tennessee. This was actually made in about 1850, and this specific one was actually used in several different soldiers, Confederate soldiers, funerals.
Yes.
So the wicker caskets were not actually ever buried; they were used for viewing.
Oh, I see.
So they would lay their loved one in here and then do the viewing, and then either put them just in the ground or in a more simple pine box. You know?
Okay. Oh, well, that was good to know.
Yeah, and then this veil is actually from right around the same time period. It was actually for a different style of coffin than this. But embalming really just came into its own during the Civil War.
Right.
Matter of fact, that one of the most famous first people to ever be embalmed was Abraham Lincoln. And there's an interesting story about how after he passed away, they did like the best job ever in embalming him, and they ended up moving him 3 times after he died. And the last time was 40 years later, and 40 years later, he just started to show signs of decomposition.
Oh my
So it was one of the most amazing embalming
That is
jobs.
so interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
When they didn't have you embalmed, they would put this veil over your coffin just to make sure that the flies and everything stayed off of you.
Oh, of course, my goodness. Well, I even detect, and I love this with the old things, is it even has a certain smell to it. Yes.
I love that smell in this museum.
I do too. Because that's just part of everything. It just touches all of our senses. Sometimes we get the energy off of it. Sometimes we get a smell, and to actually look at this. This is pretty fantastic, and I was checking up on this and reading that they used it a lot, for the Civil War soldiers that
exactly,
that died.
Because like you mentioned, it is a cheaper option,
Yes.
and you could use one for viewing for dozens of soldiers.
Yes, right.
If you actually notice where the head would go in our cemetery or in our casket here, there's a little bit of a blood stain still in there. So.
Where is it? Up here?
Yeah, just right up here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, all right. That was interesting. Right in here, down in there, you can see. My goodness gracious. Oh my gosh, yes. So now you said this room was more like the morbid, the death. I see it looks like murders and things of that nature.
Absolutely, definitely serial killers wasn't something I was into when I got into the paranormal, but there's a huge market, especially for people that visit things like this. And the first piece that I ever got with any serial killer thing is actually the grossest thing in this whole museum. These are actual beard clippings and toenail clippings from Charles Manson. Oh,
how in the world did you get that?
Well, there was a female fan that had correspondence with him while he was still alive in prison, and he actually sent those to her, and then after his death, she sold them. So.
Oh my
Definitely the grossest thing in here.
That is kind of gross. Yeah, it is. But like you said, when you've got this wall here, and I see that a lot of it, of famous murders or murderers. But I always think that's a little paranormal myself.
Exactly. Yeah, there had to be something.
Where was their mind?
Exactly. Why
were they
possessed?
Did they have demons inside?
Exactly.
I mean, they would have to have something coming forth to want to do such heinous crimes, acts against mankind.
Exactly,
So
and there was a lot of especially the murder
criminals,
castle. That's an area where so many people that's an imprint of death and sadness. So that's
now that's torn down now, isn't it?
It is. I think there's a post office right there.
Right.
Now.
Oh, can you imagine working in that post office and looking over and there's a pen rising? And you're like, oh, okay. Yes, so I'm like you. I love true crime stories and things like that because you always wonder. Like, for instance, people with schizophrenia, sometimes I'm wondering, is it really schizophrenia or really are they getting messages and seeing these people and they just have... they just have that special energy that helps them to connect a little bit more than, say, me and you could connect with.
Absolutely.
So I just think that is.
Through some of our own research, we found that the same state of mind, judging by, brain scans, schizophrenia is the same state of mind that you can be in while you're channeling from another being or, you're contacting something from another realm.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It's so much more complicated than we realize.
Well, it is. So I'm like you. I kind of think that sometimes that can be important. And we're also maybe going to be looking into some crimes, to follow up with some of the YouTubes that I do.
Awesome. There's a lot of weird unsolved crimes here.
That's right. That's right. I've been watching a little bit of these YouTubes on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I've heard about those. So as we go around and we find more oddities here.
Here's our human remain selection over here, and a couple of other oddities. We have a little two-headed turtle and a two-headed duck right here.
I see.
We actually have a woolly mammoth bone here. We know someone that goes diving off the coast of Florida and has found that, and whale vertebrae and several different.
And what type of human bone is that?
That's a leg bone. That the femur, I believe? The top leg bone. And then the creepiest out of all the human remains is in this jar. Any guess to what that is?
Oh gosh, let me look. My meter went off. Yay! Let's see.
It's not a full body part.
It's not?
No.
Okay, well, is it a tongue?
It's part of the human brain.
Is it really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's the weirdest part.
Oh my gosh, that is weird.
But yeah, we have some of that, and here's some of our magic collection over here.
Ooh, magic. That's always a good one.
Exactly.
Yes.
We have voodoo stuff, including this voodoo doll here. That's actually over 100 years old. It was actually made in Slidell, Louisiana in the 20s, in 1920.
Okay.
And it was made, we picked it up from the granddaughter of the voodoo practitioner that created it. And so he's always kind of giving me the creeps.
A little bit, yeah.
But the weirdest thing about him, each one of these little shells and rocks is a different talisman talisman for the spells he was created for,
Oh,
but
okay.
he's also filled with graveyard dirt and human teeth.
Oh
So-
my goodness! Oh jeez! Oh, okay. So much for that.
Yeah, he's right next to this voodoo rattle here from
I see
Haiti
that.
that's
Wow.
also right at 100 years old. That belonged to a priestess
Okay.
in voodoo culture.
Okay, was that to draw the spirits in? Or
Yeah,
to-
it was actually used for voodoo ceremonies
Okay,
to like you can still shake it, and it
Yeah.
was used specifically in this one dance that the voodoo priestess would do.
Yes, yes. Okay. Voodoo has always interested me, and then when I started looking into it, I saw that there was really a positive side
There
to
is.
voodoo.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's connected to nature and depending on the Earth's energies and things of that nature.
It's so wild to me, like all these different forms of magic, like paganism,
Yes.
Wiccan, and voodoo. Like there's so many just cross-connected hairs that where
Yes.
it's really just the same thing with different names almost. You know?
Absolutely. And so, and I think that's what's so, for me, is so awesome about supernatural, paranormal. It's like every day, I kind of value that I try to learn something new every day.
Exactly.
And then the more I learn and I go back, I think I have no idea what's
Yeah.
going on.
You just learn how much you
I know.
don't know.
I like that statement. You learn how much you don't know. That is very true. Okay, and
Yeah, behind you here's some of our psychic stuff,
Okay.
including the great, amazing Kreskin. We actually had a chance to meet him in 2017.
Are you kidding?
He was 84 and
I was
still
gonna
does
ask.
his stage shows.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
We'd love to get him down here at the museum at one
That
point.
would be awesome.
Yeah, we actually, right here is actually a business card that he gave us when I mentioned the museum.
Oh
He
my
said he'd love
goodness.
to do something
Oh
sometime.
gosh, that's something to be proud of. Is this one of the little ciphers?
Yeah, a little codex,
Yeah.
like in the Da Vinci Code is really
Yes,
what made that
okay,
famous.
okay.
But like devices like that have been used for thousands of years
Yes.
by secret societies
Yes.
to hide
Right.
important knowledge. You know?
Right. And I love the Beetlejuice book.
Yeah.
And book for the recently dead.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't identify with that book?
Exactly.
If you know the Beetlejuice movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so let's go on through
Yeah,
here and see what
absolutely.
we've got. I love all the little codes. Now, definitely here is a fun spot because I see what is that called? A jackal?
A jackalope, yeah.
Jackalope.
Yeah, this whole room is kind of our monster and alien and other rooms.
Okay.
So this is kind of our collection of everything that's some of our favorite stuff in here. Actually,
Right.
our next thing we'll cover is my absolute favorite.
Okay.
But yeah, we have this jackalope that, of course, jackalopes are one of the most well-known not actual creatures.
Right. And where was it captured?
So the guy that actually makes these, he actually gets jackrabbits like sustainably from like roadkill, and then he like ships them over to the guy that makes the jackrabbits out of
Okay.
them.
All right.
So
It's good to know that they didn't actually go out hunting.
Exactly.
And shot the poor creature.
But yeah, there's a gas station in Wyoming that's basically a jackalope museum.
Okay.
That I'd love to make it out there someday.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be a fun trip.
And then right next to him, there's a little mock-up of a chupacabra. We haven't caught an actual one yet,
Yes.
so that one's made out of felt, unfortunately.
Okay. Now, have there been sightings of that here in Kentucky?
No, not in
Okay.
Kentucky.
All right.
A little bit. I guess the closest to us is probably Texas, although
Okay.
they also have Texas blue dogs, which are
Okay.
very similar.
Similar, yes. Okay. All right.
But yeah, what has been seen in Kentucky though is our lake monsters. Actually, behind the case here
Yes.
is a map of some of our most famous cryptids from the state of Kentucky.
Oh my gosh, that many?
Yeah, my
Oh,
absolute
my
favorite
goodness.
is Harry, the Harrington Lake Monster. Harry's been seen since I believe the 50s in Harrington Lake, just outside of Lexington, not too far.
Okay.
And he is a half pig, half eel.
Oh.
He has the head of a pig, the body of an eel, and the tail of a pig.
Oh my
And he's
gosh.
been seen most notably by a professor at UK that studied him for 20 years.
Oh
So-
my goodness. Oh, and is it still alive though?
They believe their most recent sighting was 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh my
So, yeah.
gosh. Wow, that is incredible.
And then other than that, probably the biggest highlight in this case is our actual plesiosaur tooth. So the idea behind the Loch Ness Monster or Nessie or Champ or Bessie or all of the other this type of sea monster
right.
is that it's a plesiosaur, which was an actual aquatic amphibian
Okay.
that lived 70 to 100 million years ago.
Oh my gosh.
And so this is an actual tooth that was discovered in Morocco, and it's a fossilized tooth from a
You
plesiosaur.
have some amazing things here. I'm just blown over. I didn't even expect the grandeur of this. This is great. All right.
Thank you.
So let's back up and see what we've got over here.
So my absolute favorite folklore tale out of everything we cover is the Mothman encounters that mostly to deal with Point Pleasant, West Virginia. But and an interesting Kentucky side note is we have Mothman sightings that both predate and post-date the famous Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Oh my gosh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
either.
our most recent sighting was in 2008 in Pike County, which is eastern Kentucky.
Oh my
Someone
gosh.
saw him out there. But yeah, of course, the most famous sightings of the Mothman is in Point Pleasant, West Virginia during 1966 and 67.
Yes.
It's an incredible place, and we're actually lucky enough. My favorite piece in the entire museum is right here, and it's actually a hunk of concrete from the support beam of the Silver Bridge that fell on December 15th, 1967. And a lot of people consider that to be one of the last mass sightings of the Mothman. He was still seen here and there in the area since then, but that took the focus away from the Mothman because 46 people died in the bridge collapse.
Yes.
We actually have original newspapers from the bridge collapse as well.
Wow. Now, I noticed this picture here. I'll tell you a little story. I did an investigation in Lexington of the Carnegie Center. There's a Carnegie Center there. And we were down in the basement, and I think I had about 6 of my ghost hunters with me. We were just walking around, and we went down a corridor, and not too much activity, meters weren't going off, and we turned, and just as I turned, I like the cell sensor meter. It started going off, and we looked ahead of us, and we just saw a form that looked very much like that form. It didn't have red eyes. It was just like a black angel, because and then it just kind of went up, and then it just went down, and none of us, we were so shocked that none of us took a picture of it. We were just sitting there going, because we couldn't believe what we were seeing. So I don't know. I mean, now that I look at that, it does look like a moth.
Yeah.
But I was thinking more of a dark angel or something.
And a lot of people, debate on what exactly the Mothman was. The name Mothman really comes from Batman. It's the name of a villain.
Right.
So that's just the name that they prescribed to this thing. Really, a lot of people saw it as an omen or either a warning of good. Was he here to warn us, or was he here to cause this destruction? So that's very similar to the idea of a black angel.
That's what I was thinking that we had just encountered was a black angel. And when I see the color black, I know a lot of people ask me about. I see auras in different colors, but when I see the color black, I always feel safe and protected. And then I learned that when you banish. If you feel like you have an evil spirit or something like that in your home, you want to banish it, you always use a black candle.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, I don't know. I just always thought that black meant more protection than it did more evil.
Exactly. It covers everything, So.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, my goodness. It looks like we're in Bigfoot country.
Yeah, so moving on, Bigfoot is one of our easiest things to get quality museum items for. And there's a lot, especially in the state of Kentucky, a lot of Bigfoot stories.
Good.
This whole display case here is actually filled with all footprints and handprints and even this one-of-a-kind print, and these are all from Kentucky.
These are originals, not copies.
So these 2 are the originals. These 2 are copies, or these 3.
That's good. Hello. Thank you.
These 3 are copies from the originals, but these 2 are the actual footprints that were the casts that were made of the footprints found. These 2 are actually from Somerset, right here in Pulaski County.
Are you kidding?
No, they were found in May 2007 under Fishing Creek Bridge.
2007. That's pretty current.
Yeah.
I mean,
at that point, we have this beautiful lake, Lake Cumberland here, and it's one of the top resort lakes in the world.
Right.
And it is it's created by the Wolf Creek Dam. Yes. In 2007, the Wolf Creek Dam had a crack in it, and so they lowered the lake and everything to fix that.
Right.
And so there's a lot of mud and stuff that was never exposed that was exposed during that time. And these footprints were found under Fishing Creek Bridge at that point. And there's about a 4-month period where sightings were seen constantly in that area.
Oh my gosh, that is so interesting. I also found out today, I was watching some of the your commerce type videos, and they tell people about their little town. They were talking about Somerset, and they said during the year people come here, because of the lake, over 4 million.
Yeah.
And then he said that was more than people that visited the Grand Canyon and also Yellowstone National Park.
Exactly.
Oh, I thought that was awesome to be living in a town that would draw that many people.
Absolutely. Our lake has consistently been rated one of the top, if not the absolute top, resort lake. We have more shoreline on our lake than almost anywhere else.
Wow.
And for a long time, Somerset itself was the houseboat capital of the world.
I heard that.
Yeah, we made more houseboats than anyone.
Right, I heard that. Well, and then of course, that being, it's not a natural lake, and that's another thing that shocked me. I've also been told that sometimes when the water goes down, you can still see buildings.
Absolutely.
From the town.
So in Pulaski County,
right.
they before Somerset was huge, there was a town named Burnside. And Burnside was a stop on the railroad and everything. And most of Burnside has now been flooded because the lake was created, I believe, in the 50s by the Army Corps of Engineers. And they basically eminent domained this entire town and flooded it. And yeah, absolutely, especially in that time period I was talking about, I went down and walked into the foundations of some of these buildings. There's street lamps still standing and everything.
Did you think to take any pictures?
Yeah, I absolutely got pictures.
I would love to see some of those.
Absolutely.
I bet those are awesome.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We have a lot of history in this area.
I like it. I just recently moved here. I've been here a month, and I'm loving everything that I'm finding out about it.
Absolutely.
So,
one of my good friends that's an artist has this quote that a place isn't interesting until you start looking at it. And once we start looking here, it just never stops.
That's a great quote. I like that. All right, so let's see. We're going to be going. Oh, my goodness. That's fantastic. How in the world did you get that? You've got some of the most amazing pieces here.
This is our friend Larry. He is just about 10 feet tall here. And this is actually this is a Halloween costume. And I'll let you in on a little secret.
Yeah.
He's actually made out of PVC pipe and chicken wire.
Oh my gosh.
And then we just put a little Halloween costume on him.
Wow.
So I've worn this around town a couple times for a couple projects we've done.
Yes.
You see it out of here.
Yes.
But even with me wearing it like that, this is much taller than me.
Yes. I can see that. That is something else. Now, is this an actual sign warning? Please do not feed the Sasquatch.
Yeah, just in case. We also have this one here. Please place all human remains in the black garbage bags provided for this purpose.
Oh gosh! Oh my gosh! Now I notice here more of the footprint things. Now, is this?
These are not Kentucky. Well, I think one of them is, but these are some of the more famous that have ever been found. For instance, this one was in Grays Harbor, Washington, and it was cast by a sheriff that found it. And this one was from the same creature a week later by an investigator that came to the area.
Oh my gosh!
And so these are some of the better castings. And some of the more interesting, like for instance, Paul Freeman found this set of knuckles, and what they think it was that Bigfoot was sitting down and pressed with his knuckles on the ground.
Yeah, that would make sense. Oh my goodness!
At the Bigfoot Museum at Expedition Bigfoot in Blue Ridge, Georgia, they have a terrific collection of casts.
Yes.
And my favorite is they actually have a butt imprint
that
they found.
My God. That would be very comical.
Yeah.
Now, have you been to any of these cryptozoology type of conventions and things?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah, that's where I got to meet a lot of the people that we've worked with, a lot of the people that create our statues and stuff. I've worked with them there, and I just love going to the conventions and love meeting the like-minded people.
Yes.
Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant's my absolute favorite.
I got to do the I think it was one of the asylums, that. Gosh, I wish I could. Rick, he owns it, and he was trying to really promote it for the ghost hunters to come in and do an investigation.
The one in Moundsville, just right above there.
No, it starts with the P. What did you say?
Point Pleasant.
Yeah, Point Pleasant. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be an awesome place to go.
Now and then here is this just more of the?
Yeah, this is more of our Bigfoot stuff. In this case, is a little bit more of our souvenirs and collections.
Okay.
But a couple of my favorite pieces I'll point out. Is this is actually an actual Tibetan goat skull.
Oh.
So the way this ties in is the abominable snowman or the Yeti is mostly seen in Tibet and Nepal.
Right.
And so he's on the Himalayas. That's actually where Sir Edmund Hillary went on the expedition and they found, they took this photo of this footprint here.
Wow.
And so that's from 1930 something. And Sir Edmund Hillary, one of the most famous explorers of our lifetime, of knowledge, was there for this discovery.
Wow.
So this was actually from a temple in the same area. It's, I believe, called I don't want to get the name wrong, a Caputi skull or something like that.
Okay.
And this was an actual meditation practice where they ordain or ornament these skulls in a form of meditation.
Okay.
They do it with goat skulls, monkey skulls, and human skulls.
Oh, Lord.
Goat skull's the cheapest one.
Oh,
so.
yeah. Yes.
And then other than that, here's a book by world-renowned cryptozoologist Ivan T. Sanderson, who he's actually the one who created the term cryptozoologist.
Oh, did he?
If you're familiar with Lauren Coleman that runs the Cryptozoology Museum in Maine.
I'm not, but thank you for telling me.
He has an incredible museum,
Okay.
and he's probably our living most foremost cryptozoologist currently, and he was directly trained by Ivan Sanderson.
Oh my goodness, to have that kind of training.
Yeah, this book is one of the absolute legends in the, like when Bigfoot first started becoming a huge topic of discussion in the 60s.
Oh my
this was one of the first amazing pieces on it.
Yeah, that reminds me of a book that I have. It's one of the first, I guess we could call him the first original ghost hunter, Harry Price.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I found a book about him years and years and years ago, and it was just falling apart. But I was so honored to finally find a book about him. And then, since that time, though, now you can find more recent books on him because of everything that's been going on with ghost hunting. Yes, okay. So we're walking on around this way here.
Yeah.
My gosh. Yes.
So
this is UFO.
Yeah, this is the start of our
my
alien and UFO stuff.
Yes.
We cover anywhere from ancient aliens
Yes.
to Kentucky folklore to some
Yes.
of the more famous encounters that have ever happened. And
Yes.
if you notice, we even have met some of the famous Giorgio Tsoukalos and Eric Von Daniken that started the ancient aliens.
Oh my goodness gracious. Look
whole
at that. I got
craze.
pictures with all of these.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is that you up there too?
It is, yeah.
You look so young. Yeah.
That's a couple years ago, I guess. That's Worf from Star Trek.
Oh my gosh. I could see why you would want a picture of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, our first thing here is one of the most famous and well-documented alien abductions ever actually happened about 45 minutes up the road in Stanford, Kentucky.
Yes.
And it happened to these three women that were on their way to on their way back from a birthday dinner. And were abducted, and there was outside witnesses that saw this happen. They had these brief memories of getting on this aircraft.
Right.
But then as they couldn't remember everything, so National Enquirer offered to pay for regression therapy in exchange for a direct, exclusive story.
Right.
And so they had this regression therapy where they remembered having these tests being done on them. All three of their stories all matched perfectly.
Oh my gosh.
And within a couple of years, one of the women developed this cancer and died.
Oh.
And the last woman, the youngest of them, actually just died a few years ago.
Oh, that's too bad.
Our collection here is actually from a woman named Elizabeth Orndorff that donated all this.
Oh my
and she has written a play about this called High Strangeness. And she got to meet and spend more time with one of the last living member who never really talked about it until she talked to Elizabeth about it.
Right.
And so Elizabeth has written a direct play about the events, and
Oh my goodness.
it's staged a lot here locally.
I think, I had Scarefest.
Right.
And our first year at Scarefest 208. I think we heard this story, and we actually wanted to contact these ladies, but then at that point, with the age and everything of them.
And they never enjoyed publicly talking about it.
And somebody told me, they said, oh, they'll never come, you know.
Yeah.
So, but now, and as you're telling me this story, I do remember hearing about them.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And really, because of the National Enquirer having exclusive rights to the story and all the regression therapy they paid for, it is one of the better documented and better substantiated.
Well, that's good. I would, and you know what, I bet if we went to the Google, I'm sure we could Google it and maybe find a documentary or something on that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a film made about it. And we're working on a project.
Now, what about you? Have you ever seen UFOs? Have you been involved?
I have. I started ghost hunting in about 2004. And a couple years into ghost hunting, we were at downtown Somerset Cemetery here, and we saw this green light floating over our town, and it slowly went back and forth over Highway 27.
Green?
Yeah, a small, well, it looked small. It was definitely far away, but closer than like an airplane.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's a small green light that went to the north end of town, stopped, and then went to the south end of town. And we watched it go back and forth for about 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden it stopped and shot off west, and it was gone in about a second.
Wow, and you were at a cemetery when this happened?
We were in the middle of a ghost hunt when we saw the first UFO.
Awesome. What a way to end a ghost hunt.
Yeah. Since then I've seen several more. I actually just got back from a trip to Sedona, Arizona not too long ago, where we went on this road trip, or went on this UFO tour, where they gave us these military-grade $10,000 night vision goggles, and with those goggles in our hour-long tour, we saw 40 at least what you would absolutely have to call unidentified flying objects.
You mean you could look up?
Yeah, and we all had laser pointers, so everyone in the group would see one, and we'd laser point at it, and then everyone would look at it, and like it flies much higher than where the airplanes were. You could tell the difference between that and a falling star. We had an app that showed that there was no satellites over the Verde Valley while we were there. And so there's just these things that some of them were two that would fly together, some of them were separate and would join as one. Some of them were really fast, some of them were slow, some of them were zigzaggy.
Oh my gosh, what an experience. That was in Sedona?
Yeah, Sedona, Arizona, one of the most amazing places I've ever been.
Wow, we'll have to give them a plug.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go.
Yeah, and so obviously besides the Stanford incident, we have probably the most famous alien encounter that's ever existed. It's where the term little green men comes from, and that's the Hopkinsville encounter.
They were green?
They were not even green, they were gray. This is actually an exact size of what they looked like. And the term green man had existed for like imaginary friends or stuff like.
Gotcha.
If I said you were talking to green man, I'm insulting you, saying you may be crazy.
Okay, good.
And so they'd never used the term for aliens until this encounter. But this was in August of 1955, I believe, where like 10 to 12 of these creatures that are about 3.5 feet tall attacked this farmhouse all night.
I see a house down here.
They came and they like snuck it, or like would look in the windows. At one point, one hid on the roof and grabbed someone by the hair as they walked out.
Gosh. Oh my gosh, I see that one on the roof.
Yeah, the encounter lasted for hours, and the police eventually, like there was a lull, so they went and got the police. And over the next 2 weeks, it became the most investigated sighting ever. The CIA sent a stage magician to come and do an investigation, and they don't care about aliens.
Yes.
So like they openly did that, and it just became this amazing story that's still in the area.
And what year was that?
1955, August 22nd.
It's funny that so many of these UFO sightings, like Roswell, wasn't that in the 50s?
It was 47, but there was a 6 months before Roswell was the first mass UFO sighting up in Washington.
Yeah.
And so that was, between like 47 and
65 or something like that.
There was probably more. Well, now, of course, there's more reported daily now than ever before.
And that's understandable with the internet, and we can, get the word out pretty quick.
But
oh my goodness gracious. Now, what part of Kentucky was this home in?
It's Hopkinsville. It's western Kentucky, a couple hours away from us, and it's right down the street from Fort Campbell, a huge military base that actually does some sort of secret stuff occasionally too. So.
And does this house still exist?
The house isn't there, but every year they have a festival on the land right next to it, and the family. So after this happened, it became this media circus, and after 2 weeks, the family was done with it and sold the house and moved. So just now, literally in 2018, I believe, the family has bought the property back, and they're going to build a replica of the house where it was, with a lot of the original furniture,
that'd be
like
great.
put that in it and everything.
That will be great.
Yeah.
Great, absolutely. Oh, this is I can see where you can come in here and just almost spend days, because there's just so much. And with your information, now you said this was the actual size.
Yeah, this is the creatures that attacked our house that night. And there was about 10 to 12 of them, and they would just slowly walk to the house. And in the very beginning, they'd have their arms up, almost like in surrender.
Wow.
And the family shot at them, and every time they'd shoot them, it sounded like a tin can rattling, and they would like flutter away, but come right back, like they were bulletproof.
Wow! Wow! Well, that is interesting. So we're going to go here in the corner, and I'll tell you something. I see something that excites me, and that's a poster. And the poster here says Hellier.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let me tell you, when I heard about this show, now let's see, that's with Craig and
Greg and Dana Newkirk.
Newkirk, yes. And I started watching it, and I have to be very honest, I binged.
Yeah.
It took about 2 days, but I was sitting up at 1 o'clock in the morning going, Patty, you've got to go to bed.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Now, I have not got to see season 2. I'm anxious to do that, but I got to find time when I can binge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think they are phenomenal.
They are. And Hellier is a small town in eastern Kentucky.
Right.
That in 2012, they got reports of creatures much like these goblins coming out of the caves.
Right.
And so they eventually just started working on the documentary, and season 1 came out, I believe, maybe early last year, 2019. And since then, they are now working on season 3.
Oh my gosh.
It basically starts out looking for these cave goblins, and then ends up on this magical route that eventually, spoiler alert, leads them through Somerset, Kentucky.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Now, I understand that you were a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, how did you fit in?
Well, I've known Greg and Dana for a few years. We met them at CryptidCon in Lexington, or in Frankfurt.
Yes.
And we had talked about the museum. Of course, they own the Traveling Paranormal Museum, so
good.
we talked about museum things.
Yes, you had that in common, yes.
And we, of course, talked about, they live in Cincinnati or northern Kentucky.
Okay.
So now, of course, we all just want Kentucky folklore to just explode.
Yes.
So we talked about stuff like that, and then eventually, we made the connection. I left, and the next year they asked me. They're like, "Hey, you're from Somerset. Do you know this name? Do you know this person?" I was like, "No." And then it took a full year for Hellier to come out after that, and then months after season 1 came out, they hit me up, and I didn't know that they were working on season 2 or anything. And so they came through the museum, I gave them a tour, and they asked me, of course I wanted to tell them, I had a good UFO sighting in eastern Kentucky, very close to where Hellier was, and so I wanted to tell them about that.
Yes.
But they kept on asking about strange things in Somerset. And I was like, well, yeah, me and my friends are actually we're working on a podcast that just came out a couple months ago.
Okay.
In Pennyroyal, which is the name of our area here.
Okay. So you're doing it currently?
Yeah, well, we did season 1. It's 8 episodes, and it's the complete story. And we're working on season 2 now.
Okay, we'll network together. We'll link that for you.
Absolutely.
Oh, that'd be great.
And so we were already in the middle of doing investigations for Pennyroyal, and it led us to weird rumors of cults and weird activity here in Somerset.
Love it.
And so fast forward, completely separate, Greg and Dana come to Somerset and start asking us about the cults and literally the stuff we're already investigating.
Oh, that is great.
And it's just, there are so many
you were
wild...
at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, there's so many wild synchronicities and
Yes.
crossovers that, they're completely intertwined now.
Right, that sounds great. Now, when I'm looking down through here, okay, thank you. All right, so here we go. We're going to be looking at something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is the ghost hunting equipment.
Absolutely.
Now, of all the things in here, do you have a particular favorite one?
So the coolest one to me is the Boo Buddy, which is a little bit different than your typical piece of ghost hunting equipment. Of course, you're familiar with EMF detectors.
Yes.
You're familiar with temperature gauges.
Yes.
And you're familiar with the idea of asking questions and recording for EVPs.
Absolutely.
Boo Buddy here does all of those together.
Are you kidding? The bear?
Yeah.
The bear?
Yeah.
Oh my!
So
how did I know?
you put a boo buddy in a room and just put a recorder right next to him.
Uh-huh.
And every 30 seconds he asks a trigger question that's specifically geared for children's spirits, like, do you want to play with me? Do you want to sing your ABCs?
No way.
Yeah.
Who sells these?
Ghost Stop.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then each paw has an EMF meter in it that glows red if something touches it. If he does feel something touch it, he says, thank you for holding my hand.
No!
So you can let him know.
So you've had actual good results?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've used it specifically in this building to communicate with Mark.
Well, I was just about to ask you,
Yeah.
when we come back later, we do the investigation to see if we can contact with Mark, if we could maybe use that.
Absolutely,
That would be
yeah.
awesome.
He is a great little investigator.
Thank you. Oh, I'm glad I asked you that question.
Yeah. But other than that, I'm sure you recognize most of the equipment in here. It's pretty common, and we've been, we started just plain ghost hunting. We, after that, saw our UFOs and ran into Bigfoot and all that. But we started out just traditional ghost hunting. So this is really where our roots lie with this stuff.
Okay.
So this is our actual equipment that we use when we still go on investigations.
Now, I see a few things. I love the dowsing rods. Now, are you a dowser? Do you dowse?
Absolutely.
Oh, great. I love dowsing.
Dowsing's weird, and you don't necessarily believe it at first, but the thing that sold me on it is one of my investigation partners had a father that as soon as we got dowsing rods, he would leave the room and we'd take our cell phone and put it on the floor and then put like 10 pillows on the floor, and he'd come back in with dowsing rods, and every single time when he went over the pillow with the cell phone in it, they would cross. He would find the cell phone every time. That's
sort of like I wrote an article about how to ghost hunt, and how to dowse. I'm sorry, for ghost hunting. But then a lot of people said, "Well, how do you tell the difference from water?" Because supposedly the first dowsers were for waters.
Yeah.
Because this is in the ancient times.
Yeah, water.
This is how the villages could survive, because if they ran out of water, they'd be pretty bad off.
Exactly.
So I would tell them that you could actually use the dowsing rods for just anything, spirits, water.
Exactly. The intention's the important part.
Right, absolutely. And that, you could, for practice, I would tell people to take a coin and put it under, like they have 3 cups, and put it under a cup. And then you would know which cup it was under, and then put the dowsing rods over each cup. And of course, it would always pick the one you already knew.
Yeah.
And I said, and then this is what really gets good, is you turn your back, have somebody else move the coin, and you turn around. And we would do this as an exercise, for my classes, and people were always so shocked that they still got it right, even though they didn't know, where it was.
Yeah, one of the most fascinating things about dowsing is we've actually ran into several people that have come through the museum are in charge of cemetery associations and upkeep and stuff. And one woman in specific came in, I told her about dowsing, and a month later she came in and said she bought a set of dowsing rods and was able to find every unmarked grave in this one cemetery that she
is
found.
Awesome. I love it. And that was a really fun thing to do, when I would practice as well, and I would get into the middle of the cemetery, and I would say, are there any spirits here that would like to communicate with me? I like to make sure, my sweet spirits, I always make sure I get permission. Sweet spirits, I do love you. Thank you for coming through. If you could come through and just slow down a little bit, and I could talk to you. Boy, this thing was excited. Okay, all right. So anyway, that really threw me off. I forgot what I was talking about. That just shocked me. Well, I was talking about the dowsing rods. I was trying to make a point. But anyway, I got where when I would use my dowsing rods, they're crossing in and crossing out, crossing in and crossing out. So I designed them to be long. Mm-hmm. And so, and I sold them that way, and they were 26 inches long. And so what I would do is, once I got the permission, I would always ask for the 3 permissions. Once I got those, then I would lay one rod down, and I would ask yes and no questions. And the yes answer, it would bounce straight up and down. And the no, it would go back and forth. Now, I noticed these have the shields on them, and that makes it nice, too.
Yeah.
It has all that freedom to move.
Exactly.
Yes. So this is really good. Now, what is this tall thing here? That looks like a REM pod.
It is the
Okay.
basic idea. It's called an AeroPod. It's
Okay.
actually made in Britain, but it works on the
Okay.
same idea of the REM
All right.
pod that
Okay.
the antenna radiates a
Right.
field, and if
Right.
anything breaks it, it will let you know.
Yeah, let you know. And do you have the temp pod?
I don't. We just would use the radar or the point and click guns. for
Well,
it usually.
but this one is if the temperature changed up against it.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
we would use that like on the Mel pod or Mel meter. It would have the where you can set the alarm if the temperature changes.
Good. Yeah, he must. I mean, I see. I'm trying to think of. Do you remember his name that does this?
Gary Gell.
Gary. Yeah, the first time I talked to Gary and he explained to me how he came up with that idea. It was very heartwarming and touching. But it looks like, looking at yours, I got one of his first.
Oh yeah.
So I think he must have made some changes and probably some improvements with that. So this one, of course the first one did too. This one here that you have does the temperature and the EMF.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is just the basic 8704R, but yeah, he has them where they have the REM pods and all sorts of other things into them.
Yes, I used to really work with that one quite a bit because once I got the EVP, not the EVP, I'm sorry, the EMF meter part would go off. Once I would get that, then I would say, can you affect the temperature? And then the temperature would start going.
Precisely.
Yes. So you have to use both.
Exactly.
That's really good. All right. Well, it looks like you've got a lot of fun things. Now, have you ever investigated here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Years before we even opened the museum, like I said, we investigated looking for the spirit of Mark Thatcher.
Okay.
We've had a librarian pass away at her desk in our building, and we've actually interacted with her. I've had her clear her throat at me,
Oh my
which
goodness.
besides shushing me is probably the most stereotypical thing she could do.
I bet. Yes.
But yeah, we've done investigations here, and then of course we'll do museum investigations occasionally.
Okay.
We'll have ghost hunting groups come through, and of course they still want to take the tour, but they want to do the little extra of trying to do an investigation.
Right, absolutely. Now, have you gotten anything significant like apparitions, EVPs?
Yeah, absolutely. We have several good EVPs. The best evidence that we've ever caught in the museum, though, is from our security cameras we have set up, and it's actually with this little doll here.
Oh.
So in our remodel, these are new cases that we got.
Okay.
Before we got these, this doll was on like an open-faced bookshelf.
Okay.
And one day I walked in and it had fallen off the shelf.
Okay.
And so I go back through our security cameras, and sure enough, like it's sitting there perfectly still and nothing touches it, and it just leans over to the side. It almost looked like something grabbed its arm because it leaned over and flipped off.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Landed in front of the
Oh
shelf
my
like
gosh,
that.
well that's great that you had that on camera.
And if that wasn't enough, it happened again. We caught it a second time on our security camera happening. And then, as I mentioned, we just now got these new cases for our remodel. We've been open from our remodel for 3 months. And when we moved her into this case, it took 3 days before I walked in and she had fallen over.
Oh, you're kidding! Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love it.
And
Now,
then besides her, we've also had Gladys move on camera several times. She's a mannequin we took out of a local business here.
Can I go and stand beside
Yeah,
her?
absolutely.
I want to see if my meter will go off.
Absolutely. I feel like she's much happier here than she was in her last place, but her big things at the store we took her from is she, in a 10-month period, or an 8-month period, there was 10 separate times that the owners locked up at night, and when they came in the morning, she had moved to a different spot.
And now this is where, in the store where she was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, what store was that?
It was a bookstore that's no longer open here in town.
Oh.
My favorite story out of all of those that happened is they would do gaming events at the bookstore at night.
Okay.
And one night they were doing gaming events, and someone went in the back to use the restroom and turned on the lights, and she's just standing right
Oh my gosh, in the bathroom!
Yeah.
Do you think someone might have just put her in the bathroom?
This is early enough. Definitely we caught them moving her on purpose afterwards, but this may be early enough that it was before the pranks.
Okay, all right. Well, you always have to think about that.
Exactly.
Because this thing has to weigh
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
That would take an immense amount of energy for a spirit to try to,
Absolutely.
maneuver, move.
Since we've been open, we've caught her on camera, her eyes moving, and we've had 13 people that have come through the museum that have seen her move her eyes, or no, I'm sorry, wink or blink.
Yeah.
And then we've had 4 people say that they've seen her move her eyes,
Right.
and then 3 people, including one of my employees, saying that they've seen her move.
Oh,
One of my
my
employees
goodness.
was cleaning a case and turned around just in time to see her stand back up.
Oh my gosh! Now that would freak me out.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
I
I
can
had to
deal
talk her
with
into
ghosts,
coming in the next
but
day.
don't have things, coming in, at me. That reminds me of zombies or something, That's where my fear would come in. I will comment on the hair. Somebody needs to brush her hair.
Yeah, she originally had several wigs,
Yeah.
and then by the time we got her, this was the only one she had.
Yeah.
And then since we've been open, we've had someone come in and say, "Hey, this is from the bookstore, right?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah," and they came back the next day with one of her original wigs.
Oh my God! So is this one of them?
Yeah, it's one of the originals.
Oh, that's great. I'm just gonna walk up just in case.
Yeah.
Sweet spirits, if you're here or around. Now, what was her name?
Gladys.
Gladys. If you're around Gladys, if you're one of those that push the energy out so that you can make her move or blink, maybe you just really like her. We have to get her some more eyelashes too.
That's
Yeah.
another weird thing. When we moved in, all of our dolls had all of their eyelashes.
Oh, really?
And she's lost one, this doll here, and this doll here have all lost.
Oops, sorry about that. Now, let me tell you what we'll do. Well, now that might have been, a while ago when it was going, it might have been picking up my phone.
It's weird. It sent it off that much, though, right?
Well, let's see. It's really, but why would it?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we always like to
Exactly.
debunk everything, See, that might be my phone. See, now in there it didn't do that. It was just a slight beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
But this is really, yep. Well, let me do this right now. Put this over here. And you know what? I've done many investigations and ghost walk with this in my pocket, but I never noticed that it made these go off.
Yeah.
But it's always good to know. And then I did get a little kind of a chirp while we were talking, but nothing that's going to stay. I always like for something to stay, just to see if we get anything.
Just to mention it, because as ghost hunting goes, so this is a very old building, of course.
Yes.
But none of these walls actually have wires in them. All the wires are outside in the conduits. So
if this thing went off, it wasn't because there was a wire.
Exactly,
Oh, thank you for telling me that. Oh, that's really good to know. I'm going to turn it back on, just leave it on, just in case. I'll put it over here where the phone is not. All right, so now these dolls here.
Yeah.
People always love to hear stories about haunted dolls.
Absolutely.
Love haunted dolls. So, but they're so pretty. I mean,
They are. And these are actually very expensive dolls.
I was
if you were
just
to buy
about to
them.
say these look like real porcelain.
Yep.
They look, very well taken care of. I can't even imagine that they've even had children playing with it, other than the fact that they're both missing eyelashes from the same eye.
And
too.
like I said, and Gladys is missing one of them. And all of them had their eyelashes when we moved in.
Wow,
don't
now
know.
that's strange.
Yeah.
That really is something to think about.
But yeah, this is Robert and Elizabeth here, and we actually took them out of a local home.
Okay.
So one of my business partners had a wife who went to work one day. One of her coworkers said, "I have to bring you these."
Okay.
And so the story was the coworker had a mom die, and this was part of the inheritance.
Yes.
And so she brought him in, and the same coworker had 2 young kids, a boy that was 3 and a daughter that was 5.
Okay.
And as soon as she brought these dolls in the house, both of the kids, but especially the daughter, would complain, "Mommy, the dolls are mean to us." And the mom blew it off at first, thought it was just imagination and whatever. And it was during the winter, and a few weeks after having them, the girl said, "Mommy, the dolls are scratching us." And she said, "What are you talking about?" And even lifted her sleeve, and she had a bunch of tiny little red scratch marks on them. So the mom went and checked her son, and he had them, but not as severe as well. So she basically just threw him in a trash bag, put him in the back of her car, and the next time that she saw my friend's wife, gave them to her. And so that's how they got in here.
All right.
Since we've been open, we've never had them scratch us. However, when we first opened the museum, they were also on an open bookshelf.
Okay.
And I would come in every 2 or 3 days to paint the space or work on something, and his hat would always be off his head. And it would either be on the shelf next to him or in front of there, or one time it was halfway across the room.
Oh my goodness. Now that's weird.
Yeah, we took them to a paranormal fair where we had 3 different sensitive or psychic people comment on them, and all 3 of them said she was the troublemaker out of the 2.
Okay, of course.
Yeah. The first one said that it was just something to do with her hair. All 3 of these people didn't know each other. And then the second 2 specifically said that she used to have a silver barrette in her hair, and she didn't have it when we got her, and so that she didn't like having her hair loose. So my mom actually bought her a little antique silver barrette that's in her hair, and we've never had a single issue out of them since.
Oh my gosh, okay. All right, so it might have something to do with maybe the material, the properties of the silver.
Exactly.
Yeah,
or she might just like it. It's very iffy because of course we want these things to,
of course,
misbehave, but we also want them to be happy, especially having to work with them,
right. That's right, especially if they're here.
Yeah.
Now this one is really interesting. Now there was someone else that had come in and reviewed your museum and talked about this bourbon, or is it whiskey?
Yeah, it is a bourbon from Kentucky. Here.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is so special about this particular bottle?
So my same investigation partner that I just mentioned used to be a teacher, or is a teacher at a high school. And at one point he had a student have his uncle die, and they were cleaning out his uncle's house, and the student called my friend and said, "We need to talk. We need to meet you." So we met this kid at a restaurant, and he brought this bottle of bourbon inside the box with this letter in the envelope. And he said,
to anyone who would consider drinking this bourbon, read this letter first, then proceed at your own peril.
So yeah, his uncle was a no-nonsense kind of guy.
Yeah.
But he wasn't much of a trickster, never mentioned anything about ghosts or anything paranormal. And then they found this in his attic. And basically this letter says they used to have music nights, which they did know this about the uncle. He played banjo, I believe.
Oh, my uncle did too.
They would have music nights with him where once every month or couple months, a bunch of people would just go over and they'd all play music.
Right.
Well, one time they were having a music night and this guy showed up. They didn't realize it at the time, but no one knew him. They all thought he came with someone else.
Right.
And he played fiddle. And the letter basically, it's very Devil Went Down to Georgia.
I see that.
Yeah,
I see where it's going.
The letter basically said that this guy was an incredible fiddle player, and like every time that they played with him, like they played better that night and like faster and just more beautifully than they ever had before. And just almost that there's a spell over them.
Okay.
And eventually the stranger, seemingly out of nowhere, produced this bottle of bourbon and gave shots to everyone. And the author of the letter says that usually he didn't even drink, but that night he felt like that the stranger was insisting, and that they all did, and that after they drank it, things got weird. And that he swears at one point he even saw curls of smoke coming off the stranger's finger as he was playing the fiddle.
Oh my gosh!
And eventually
that's a lot of bourbon.
Yeah. Eventually the stranger stopped playing and said, I'm gonna leave. Will you watch this bottle of bourbon until the next time I come? And they're like, yeah. And so he left. That's when they realized that no one knew him.
Yeah.
And so they just put the bottle of bourbon in the box on the shelf.
Okay.
And didn't touch it again. And a few months later, they had another music night, and this guy came over that wasn't at this one, and sang this sad song about having his heart broke. And at the end, grabbed this bottle of bourbon, poured himself a drink, and took it in one big gulp. The letter says that when he did this, he clutched his throat as if he swallowed fire, and he ran out of the house, and no one ever saw him again.
Oh my gosh.
Literally the author of the note and the other people that participated in music nights and people in the county had a manhunt, and they looked and never found this guy again.
Oh my God.
And so no one ever touched the bottle again, and then they noticed that every year on the anniversary of this music night, a shot has been drank out of it. And so we actually picked it up from the student that night, And, you know, there's not too much in it.
Yeah,
it's from
it's not,
about
it's-
1974, so that
Oh
about
my
makes sense.
Gosh.
That's
just going to be rotten.
Yeah. And so my friend took it to his house. We actually had a crawl space where we kept the haunted items before we had the museum.
Yes.
It was late enough that he didn't want to fool with that, so he just left the bottle and the letter inside the box on his kitchen counter and went to sleep. Well, his wife works nights, and she got home from work about 6 a.m., and he awoke to her screaming. And so he stumbles out of bed and gets in the living room and sees that she's still outside the front door, but the front door is standing wide open between them. And she's like, what happened? Did we get robbed? Is someone hiding that? So they calmed down, they checked everywhere in the house, and nothing's broken, nothing's stolen, nothing's different at all.
She just came up and the door was open.
Yeah.
She just thought.
And the only difference is that the bottle was taken out of the box and sitting next to it. And so we feel like that whoever drinks the bottle, he's like, crap, this is my last chance.
Yes,
you know?
yes. Oh my gosh. Now that's a good story.
Yeah.
And it being Bourbon country, you know.
Exactly, yeah. It was very serendipitous. It was
Yes.
maybe a month before the museum opened,
Right.
and he called
Yes.
us, and it's like,
Oh,
wow.
Well, we have to have that one. And it's got a good story. It's kind of like you said, the devil went down to Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So now is there a history to this little precious thing?
That's the doll that I mentioned has actually fallen more than anything
And
else.
how did you come by her?
So she is originally, we got her at the flea market.
Oh, okay.
Because she's creepy looking, no offense to her.
Right,
we use her
right.
as a trigger object.
Okay.
Because when you move her, like her eyes blink, and when you squeak her or squeeze her, she squeaks. You know.
that's good.
And so
it's
we would
good to
take-
have those when you go into haunted places with
Exactly.
children. And
Yeah, and so we would
Okay.
take it into haunted places to try
Okay.
to get children to interact with it.
Right.
And one night specifically, we had more success with it almost every time we asked
Right.
for it to blink and blink.
Right. Oh my gosh.
And
that's
so
awesome.
we finished up the ghost hunt and then went back to my friend's house and started like going over the footage and everything. And a few hours later, we get up from the computer and we look at it, and it's still just blinking like crazy. So we must have attached
Yes.
something must have attached
Yes.
to it. So we just shoved it with the haunted
Okay.
stuff and had
All
it
right.
used
Well,
it
that's good.
since.
That's good. It's in a safe place.
Yeah, and then I just want to bring up this pendulum right next
Oh,
to
yes.
it. The reason why the pendulum was in here is we used to use it for ghost hunting, and
Uh-huh.
then we took it out one night on an investigation with a sensitive or psychic person,
Uh-huh.
and she said that we had absorbed so much like dark energy that we shouldn't use it anymore.
Yes.
So just to be safe, we put it in here for
Right,
safekeeping.
right.
But originally, we got that at the Ghost Hunter store in Lexington.
Oh my
Kentucky.
gosh!
So-
Who on that store?
Exactly. So I thought you'd appreciate
My
that.
goodness, I would. Oh, especially the fact that y'all used it so much. That's
Absolutely.
Really great.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh wow, such good information. So much fun stuff. Okay, Leprechaun, huh?
Yeah,
Is
his
that
name
the
is
Leprechaun? You know the movie
Yeah.
Leprechaun.
his name is John Jameson, and he's actually originally from a bar in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
He was given as a promotional item for
Uh-huh.
St. Patrick's Day from a
Uh-huh.
brewery.
Okay.
And this bar was probably already on its way out, but everything bad that happened to the bar they blamed on the Leprechaun
Oh,
after they
that's
closed.
mean.
And so they closed, and the manager took him with him and never bothered to take him out of his car. So after about 2 or 3 weeks with him being in the car,
Tell me what that is.
so that's my track and pan camera that tracks motion, but there's no reason it should ever do that movement.
Ooh, very
and actually
good.
the track and pan is even off.
Oh.
So it shouldn't have moved at all.
Oh my gosh. That's great.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
sweet
weird.
spirits, you just keep it up. We love it.
Yeah, that's the camera dedicated to the haunted items here.
Oh my goodness.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
But yeah, so
Especially the expression on your face, because I knew that something just happened that shouldn't have happened.
yeah, and that does not, like, the movement function is turned off on
Oh
the
my
camera.
gosh.
So that's weird that it just
That
spun
is,
all the way
yeah,
around.
and it spun completely around. Now, is that recording? Can you go back and look at it?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
you'll have to let me know if something like came over us. And,
Yeah,
you know.
that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
But
All right,
yeah,
so, well-
so after the car wreck of the owner, well, the owner had it in his car and eventually got in a car wreck. And from that guy to me, there's a line of 7 people
Okay.
that have owned him that have all had awful things happen to
Oh,
them.
and you would want to own it.
Well, I get along a little bit better with him. I think it's because I tell him, like, I don't own you.
Yeah.
Like, we're friends. You live here at the museum. If you want something, I'll bring it to you.
Okay.
You know?
Well,
But
that's
the
fair
only thing
enough.
I can ever attribute to him is I bought him on a Tuesday. My birthday was on the next Thursday. And I got food poisoning for the first time in my life. I was in bed for like 4 days.
Oh my gosh, that's
So-
horrible. I tell you, you think you're going to die when you get that food poisoning. That's
Yeah,
bad.
but we've even had people come through the museum that
Mhm.
we've told us he's cursed, and they've made fun of him and then got into a car wreck.
Oh,
afterwards.
no.
So.
Oh, you're lovely. You're so sweet. You're one of my sweet spirits.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's my buddy, like
Yes.
I said.
And then I noticed here the Bell Witch used to be one of my absolute favorites.
Oh yeah.
I went to it was like a gathering for the Bell Witch, but what happened was when we got to Adam, Tennessee, it had rained and we were supposed to actually go into the cave. And the water had come up and we made this trip, and unfortunately we weren't able to do the investigation that we wanted to do. But I did read this book, and this book is an awesome book about the Bell Witch.
Yeah,
Have you read it?
Yeah.
It's a
that
good
one is incredible, and
I
the
love
thing
it.
about the Bell Witch is that there's so many first-hand accounts
Yes,
of people
especially,
involved.
well, didn't the president?
Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, Andrew Jackson even went there and witnessed. And
Exactly.
literally,
He was going to
goodness.
spend several nights, and then he only spent one night, and the spirit told him that someone was going to betray him,
Right.
and all this other stuff, and then he left the very next morning.
Yes. Well, if anybody that hears about the Bell Witch for the first time, I think they should Google it
Yeah,
and read up
absolutely.
on it, because that is an interesting
Yeah, and that's an actual piece of the cabin that John Bell died in.
Now, y'all, my phone is way over here, so that's kind of interesting. And it's not quite as crazy as, when I put the phone up to it.
Yeah.
So, all right, okay, well, all right, so I was bending down, let me see, okay. All right, so this is a piece of the wood, you said?
Yeah, from the cabin that John Bell was actually
Okay.
killed by the Bell Witch.
Well, that's one thing that I wouldn't want to mess with. I always talk about everything that I usually do in life is I get real positive results.
Right.
And I've never really had anything negative, but I don't want to stay on the subject of the Bell Witch too long.
Yeah.
Just in case I get proven wrong.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So then after that, I'll go ahead and point out one of
Yes.
our newest pieces here.
Yes.
That's actually from Jamaica, this little plaque. And
Uh-huh.
these little clay heads are supposed to represent demons.
Oh.
And each one is supposed to have a demon attached to it.
Okay.
Those heads were actually found in Jamaica, and they're over 600 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And so they were put on this plaque with
Yes.
a bunch of these copper coins, and there is
Okay.
some idea that copper is a binding agent for
Okay.
some people,
Right, right, I
for some
understand,
religions.
right.
So that came from a doctor in Atlanta. He has a personal collection. He's Jamaican,
Okay.
and he actually bought that from like a witch doctor when he lived in Jamaica.
Wow. And
So-
wow, you're so lucky that you've ended up, like I said, you can come here in this museum, and probably it would take you a lifetime to go around to other museums to see what you've got in one place.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is
We
awesome.
have, including our library, we have over 1,000 items
Yes. Oh my
that
gosh.
people can check out.
This is really awesome. Then these look like just representations of things that have been classified as very haunted.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
made by the Bradford Exchange Company that makes
Okay.
a lot of the awesome little Christmas houses
Oh,
collections
yeah,
and stuff.
I remember him.
And so this is America's
Yeah.
Most Haunted Collection, and
Oh
it's
my gosh.
some of the most haunted places in America.
Yes.
First one that came out was the Franklin Castle in.
Now, where's that located?
I believe it's right outside of Cleveland.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
And
Cleveland.
then this is in Alton, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
the
Alton,
McPike
yeah.
Mansion there,
Yeah.
which actually, this piece of wood right here
Yes.
is an original piece of the support beam to McPike Mansion.
Okay.
Interesting.
I would really like for, I'll speak. Sweet Spirit, if you're wanting to communicate with me, could you just come back and stay so I can ask them yes and no questions? And I'll be really sweet, I promise. I won't tell you to stop. Okay. Where are we now?
But yeah, for the recreations, we were just mentioning some of these. Looks like our one light fell here. But yeah, my favorite out of all of these is probably the Amityville house here, which of course is partially because, they've redone the house because they hate it so much. I don't know why you would move into that house and not be into the legends of it,
Right, absolutely.
But the two windows that are like the famous windows they've redone now.
But that was always for me the scariest house I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I read the Amityville Horror book, and I would just be sitting on the bed and I'd be reading it. I mean, laying back on the bed with my husband. You know what a husband is? It's like that big pillow that comes around.
Yeah.
And I'll be sitting there and I'd be reading the book and I'd be going, oh my gosh. And I'd be reading, and then one of the kids would break into my bedroom, and the book would the book would literally go up into the air. I'd be so into it. It was so intense. It was so scary. Yes.
Yeah. And so then this is a collection of more than not souvenirs from some of the more famous places we've been able to go.
Good.
And do investigations of.
Absolutely. I like these old keys.
Oh yeah, that's a recreation of the set that the lighthouse keeper would keep at the St. Augustine.
Oh, let me tell you about St. Augustine. I love this part. My son was actually a manager for the St. Augustine lighthouse.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, and when I think it was either the Travel Channel or one of the, I can't remember which one, but they came in and they did like the most haunted lighthouses.
Yeah.
And so they got my son to play the part where the guy that ran the lighthouse back in the 1800s, whatever, and he jumped and fell, and so he's laying on the ground. He goes, "Mom, that's me." I'm the one laying on the ground. But let me tell you what was really unique about my son. He is such a craftsman, and while he was managing there, he would make these they're kind of like duffel bags that the seamen would put their clothes and shoes in and throw over their shoulders.
Yeah.
And he would make every single piece original. The cloth that they would use back then, the way they would sew it, the stitching. Cool. Yes.
Yeah.
And that became a real popular piece for him to sell at the gift shop.
I would love that. Yeah.
Oh,
when we went, there was a group that were making a dugout canoe in like a traditional way.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like that was absolutely like
I know.
fascinating.
I love things like that. So that's he became a fireman, and now he took his sewing abilities into he makes all these different accessories for firemen that they don't normally get, and then he's also licensed to be able to sew on the fireman material. You know, it has the strips. You have to be licensed before you can actually sew and do things on that. So that's what he does. I just did a infomercial for my son. But so is there anything else that we need to make sure that we don't leave out, because this has been phenomenal.
Yeah, just if you ever
except
stop
for this
by.
is what turned.
Yeah, this
and
is
tell
our
me
security
what this
camera.
was. Oh, it's just a security camera.
Yeah, the rest of them are all stationary cameras, but this one has track and pan, and it can track motion.
But you said the tracking was off?
Yeah, it's now set where it shouldn't ever move, but it just did.
Yeah, it did a full circle.
Yeah, the reason why it's here is because we do, eventually we're going to have a live 24-hour live stream of all of our haunted items, and we'll just want people to be able to check it anytime they want and record it.
Well, I tell you what, after we leave, you'll check and see if you find that spot and see if maybe, and oh my goodness, if you find something, you let me know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That would be really, really awesome.
And then of course here's our library. This is a good chunk of our books, and like if you ever come to the museum, you're more than welcome to come and stay as long as you like.
Yeah, sit on the chair. I used to have a chair like that in my little ghost hunter shop with my books, and I did the same thing. I love the Weird Kentucky book.
Oh yeah.
That was I had a lot of fun with that one. You've got some really good books here. I love it. I love it. Mythology, that's always a good one. Fairy folk. Oh my goodness gracious. This is wonderful. And I think it's probably one of the most unique museums that, when you think about all that you carry, you might think, well, that's a little much, but it isn't. It all flows, it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. You have done a fantastic job. Now, how many years did it take you to collect all this?
So we started collecting right when we started ghost hunting, right about 16 years ago.
Okay.
And so some of these items are that much older, but I guess when we decided about 5 or 6 years ago this was a possibility,
so that's when you got
we kind of ramped up. You know?
So you got serious. Yes. Well, thank you so much. I want to make sure that anybody that sees this YouTube channel will definitely check out. Now, does your YouTube channel have a name?
Yeah, it's just International Paranormal Museum,
Okay.
and we have social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of those.
All
And
right.
if you just look up International Paranormal Museum,
Okay.
you'll find it.
All right, and I'll put some links down below, you know, our little segment there, so if anybody wants to contact
Awesome.
you. And I'm going to be contacting you because
Excellent.
I've got some other questions I want to ask you.
Absolutely, this has been great.
Oh, thank you so much. I sure do appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, Kyle, this has been exciting. I love meeting you. I did like the way when I came in and you asked the Google to open up shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this will be great to end this little segment is to have you close shop.
Absolutely.
All right, let's-
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Hey Google, close up shop.
It's magic. All right, girls, we're going to go up to the Carnegie so we can pinpoint some places where we may have seen Mark, and then from there after that, then we'll come back and we'll do a full-on investigation. We'll grab my stuff here. No. Well, something's following it. Look at this. This is kind of cool, guys.